My name is Kathy Landold. I'm ASHI's Meetings, Exhibits, and Sponsorship Coordinator. And with me today is ASHI Meeting Manager Stephanie Ritter, ASHI CEO Kathy Giovetsis, and Dr. Sivadisan Kanagat, Chair to the ASHI Educational Workshops. And we all thank you for taking the time to join us today to learn more about this event. Your American Society for Histocompatibility and Immunogenetics chose to have this call because we thought there might be some mystery about what happens at the ASHI Educational Workshops, and we just wanted to take this time to tell you more. And this call will be recorded and available on ASHI's YouTube channel. We're also going to post the link on ASHI's social media platforms. And so with that, just want to make sure you have the dates. So there's a link, it'll be put in the chat, and also as you see, it's available at the bottom of this image. So we invite you to check out the website for more information anytime. This professional development opportunity covers basic to advanced techniques and technologies with some really interesting cases, and there's pertinent information that will be shared that's a really good fit for bench technologists who want to better understand clinical application and acquire practical knowledge. And some have shared that it's the perfect setting for those who are new or want to grow in the field, boost their knowledge and practice in the area of histocompatibility and immunogenetics. And last year's program was awarded 11 hours of continuing education from ASHI, and this year we're expecting a similar amount of CECs to be offered. But our speakers are captivating and knowledgeable. You'll even hear directly from those who are impacted by your work. And there's really something for every type of lab, attendee and lab. So the topics that are covered, apply to your daily work and can be immediately practiced in the laboratory. So it's definitely an engaging and worthwhile learning experience. And you'll get the full benefits and camaraderie of the workshop if you can join us in person, with that opportunity to network, build relationships, and knowledge share in a more intimate setting. With that, before we really jump in, I just have some housekeeping items. So our lines are muted, but we welcome questions in the chat, and we're going to address those questions at the end. And there'll be 10 minutes for a Q&A. But during the Q&A, those who attended ASHI educational workshops in the past, we invite you to share your experience because we'd love to hear from you. So to get started, I welcome Dr. Sivadisan Kanagat to review the true science of the meeting. And I think, Siva, we just need you to unmute. We can't hear you, but if Siva, if you could just unmute your microphone. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm excited to announce our ASHI Regional Workshop, which is now called as ASHI Educational Workshop. Number one, in person, starting on June 29th till July 1st. We're excited to have wonderful topics, which will actually take us beyond the common name which we have, tissue typing lab. So I want to take it to the extent of histocompatibility and immunogenetics in whole, where we are going to introduce the applications of histocompatibility in immunogenetics field into infectious disease and vaccine development, as we have observed in the COVID-19 case, recent pandemic. And then also to the role of HLA testing, both HLA high resolution typing and antibody testing in stem cell therapies and other cancers other than transplantation per se. And then we are going to concentrate on complement mediated, uh, complement based antibody um, activities to see whether that can be utilized as another layer of assigning functionality to the HLA antibodies in transplantation. And finally, we are going to have two more topics. That is, one is to understand the practical aspects of using applets and epitope-based HLA matching, just not just based on the the conventional antigen-based matching and antibody-based matching. In this particular field of applet and epitope-based analysis is going to give us more insight into the quality and the functionality of the antibodies, and to utilize our technology to match up with um, donor recipient pairs. Finally, we will have a good talk from surgeon immunologist on the uh, expanding roles of HLA testing, both antibody and HLA typing in liver transplantation, which is a standalone field in the transplantation in terms of HLA. We will hear from the surgeon immunologist on that. Now, let me introduce the faculty, if I may. Erin Doran from Bloodworks Northwest is going to give us a presentation on the epitope-based analysis. And I've seen her presentation to a certain extent. It is extremely good, very practical, and she has a lot of tips for the technologist, and I really encourage people to pay attention to that, and it'll be very interesting and very useful for practical application. Dr. KG, she's from Gift of Hope. Sorry, sorry, excuse me. From City of Hope, California, and she is expert in the field of cure HLA, population genetics, and more importantly, in bone marrow transplantation. She's coming from a very highly reputed bone marrow transplant center, and she will give us an excellent talk presentation on the role of HLA and HLA typing as well as HLA antibodies in stem cell therapy in other cancers as well as stem cell therapy in general. And then we have Manish Mishra from University of Chicago, who is going to take us through he's an assistant professor and the associate director of the HLA department there. And he's going to give us an insight into the role of C1q assays and C3D assays. And he's going to give us what it means in clinical utilities in transplantation. And Dr. Tanner from Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota. He's the surgical director and immunologist at Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And he's the transplant director also, surgical transplant director and liver transplant director. And he's going to give us the intricacies of HLA testing, the role of HLA testing, and how it differs from other transplant, other solid organ transplants and HLA testing. The difference between the different transplant programs and focuses on HLA testing in liver transplantation. I'm looking forward for all these talks, and I hope that you can join us in person, because this is going to be an extremely valuable, useful, slightly deviating from the regular classical way of doing HLA and these meetings. So let's hope that we get more participation, so that we can have a good interaction, learning experience, and listen to all these excellent experts we have selected for this particular conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And there are some faculty on this call. If they wanted to share anything, you're welcome to talk a little bit. But I think you really covered everything. But they are here as well. Just wanted to point that out. And we also have a donor and recipient sharing their experience as we have in past meetings. So thank you. And again, we invite you to put your questions in the chat or hold them for a few minutes while we cover some things to do in Denver and some important deadlines. But again, if faculty, if you wanted to say anything, feel free to take that time to share a little bit more about your talk. Okay.
I can start. So, like my experience in bone marrow transplant, but what I'm gonna talk actually, I have frequently my med techs ask like why we are typing so many A2s, like how they are using it, like is we have more and more patients which are not going really for bone marrow transplant, but they still need HLA, they still need antibodies. Like how different are those tests from like a common transplant? Why they are using it? Like so, I'm gonna try to answer those questions, and we have like this is like a cellular therapy, how it applies to cellular therapy, and I will try to talk about like cancer and non-cancer settings also. And good examples probably are autoimmune disease, viral infections, and lately like COVID also could be considered one of them. It's not just cellular therapy of T cells. Now we have a lot of cellular therapy of NK cells. Do they need HLA? Do they need antibody? Like why? Like how the physicians are using like our test for non-transplant settings. So I will try to target my talk and try to explain all these questions that you might have when you just type A0201. So like why do they need this information for to make a decision to include or exclude the patients, etc. So that will be my talk, and I'm gonna learn with you, with all of you. We do have our center does several projects on the cellular therapy, and the HLA lab sometimes is involved, sometimes is not. So I'm gonna try to summarize what are the different topics or different studies that we are participating as an HLA lab. And see you all in Colorado. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you again for sharing. Great. So I do want to share, in Denver, it's a perfect transition. There's some really striking natural scenery, 1 mile above sea level, and acclaimed eateries with locally sourced cuisine. There's a renowned craft beer scene, and you can tour historical sites, go on an outdoor hike or kayaking adventure, or take a self-guided walking excursion and discover hidden gems in a vibrant neighborhood art district. So it's a really great setting to relax and unwind on a rooftop patio while enjoying spectacular views. We do have one offsite event plan that our ASHI meeting manager, Stephanie Ritter, will share with you. So with that, Steph, take it away.
Thanks, Kathy. So just to get everyone a little bit excited about some fun stuff we have coming up, we have our tech networking bowling night. And so last year we took you to the rooftop, and this year we're like, we got to do something different. So let's get them in a bowling alley. Just so that you know, this is Friday, June 30th from 8 until 10 o'clock. It is a very short 5-minute walk from the host hotel. And the entry is free, the bowling is free, desserts are free, and we'll also give you 1 drink ticket for our beer and our wine bar. So there's a lot of fun to be had, a lot of networking, and a lot of things included, and we really hope that we get to see you guys there.
Great, thanks, Steph. And we have some important dates too that we want to share with you. And the information will be put in the chat about, actually there's an event this Friday that pertains to those who will be joining us and presenting their case study. So we have a deadline on May 29th, and we invite everybody to present their work, or anyone to apply to present your work in front of others, can really build valuable relationships in your field. And the ASHI Educational Workshop Committee, we're requesting case studies from attendees and hope you'll consider submitting yours. So, if your case study submission is selected, you'll be given a valuable opportunity to present during one of the 15-minute discussion-based presentation slots at the face-to-face workshop. And if your case study submission is received, they're selected, you and 3 others will be awarded with a $50 award. So it was actually kind of timely that we do have an event coming up this Friday at 5 p.m. Tech Affairs Happy Hour called How to Present Abstracts and Case Studies. So if you would like to register for that, staff will put that information, a link to join that event, and they'll cover that in case that would be a helpful resource. We also have a deadline on June 1st to apply as a moderator for the face-to-face workshop in June. Moderating is a really great way to get your name out there and network, and it involves a formal announcements before each talk and some housekeeping announcements. So there's that. And then on June 7th, there's a deadline to receive ASHI's negotiated room rate when you book your stay. So just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And then finally, June 12th is the early bird registration rate that ends on June 12th for the in-person workshop. So, but moving on, so if you aren't already on ASHI social media, it's a really great way to stay up to date with everything ASHI. So like last week, we shared some testimonials from attendees who were at the 2022 ASHI Educational Workshop. So I just invite you to check us out on social media. And you can also find this video, which I'll play for you. It's also there. So hope this will also help you get excited about joining us in Denver. So again, here's the link to our workshops. That link will be shared again in the chat. And the workshop is actually a great time. I see there's a question in the chat that we'll be happy to answer. So we invite folks now to unmute and ask your questions. And again, I invite anyone who has attended an ASHI educational meeting in the past to share their experience. And actually, before I jump in there, I wanted to invite any other faculty if they wanted to say a few words about their presentation. Dr. Hildebrand, I noticed he was on the call, who's our keynote. And so just want to give folks time to share, and then we'll jump right into Q&A.
Kathy, did you want me to give a brief overview of the keynote?
I am extremely sorry that I forgot one of the most important presenter of this meeting, Dr. Willie Heidelbrand. I am so sorry about that, but he's our keynote speaker, our past president, and he's going to give us an overall of the entire talk, as well as he's going to concentrate on infectious disease and HLA testing. So this will be starting with that plenary session, the whole meeting, and we are excited to have him give us that plenary session talk. Thank you.
Yeah. Kathy, if you want me to give a brief overview of the keynote, I could do that just for a second.
Sure, we welcome you. Thank you.
So I've been studying major histocompatibility complex molecules since probably for 35 years, and studying HLA molecules for 30 years from a variety of perspectives, from oncology, to how to treat tumors with HLA complexes and how to deal with autoimmunity from an HLA perspective. And I have a clinical HLA typing lab for transplantation. And I've also done a lot of HLA work for infectious disease. And I find that the HLA molecules and all of these different indications overlap in their function. So it's hard to study HLA in transplantation without studying HLA in oncology. And so I'm just going to give a broad view of HLA in the different fields and show how HLA molecules in transplantation relate to HLA molecules in oncology, things like that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hildebrand. Great. So we'll just go back to Q&A if anybody has any questions. We did have one question in the chat, which was, do you have to be an ASHI member to attend the meeting? And the answer is no. We welcome ASHI members and non-members, so you do not have to be a member to attend the meeting. And there's another question about moderating in our chat. So if someone would like to consider being a moderator, really it's just mostly housekeeping announcements, formal announcements. We provide, ASHI provides some support around that. But for day of, just introducing our faculty and the next speakers and transitioning in between talks. So that's what it involves to be a moderator. And if you have more questions about that, we would be happy to, if anyone's just curious and wants to learn more, please reach out and we can provide additional information. I think Dr. Misra, did you want to say anything?
Yes.
Please.
I can give an overview of my talk as well, and if anyone has any question, I can answer to the question as well. I think Dr. Kanagat has given a very good overview of the topic that I am planning to present, but I also wanted to go in more depth and to see if anyone has any question about that. So I'm presenting in the session 5 on Saturday, July 1st, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., where I will discuss that in that lecture, mainly focus on the rationale behind the complement fixing HLA antibodies and their clinical impact in the clinical allotransplantation, and provides the limitation of the complement fixation assay. I will also discuss the utility of the C4D staining, complement fixing, complement binding assays such as C1Q and C3D assays. And later in the session 6 on the application of complement binding assay, I'm going to focus on giving the case studies and providing some research data to show the strategies that are clinically used through worldwide, utilizing the complement binding assay in management of transplant patients, including the strategies for listing unacceptable antigens and prioritizing donor selection in absence of optimally matched donors, and the post-transplant management of the complement fixing antibodies in transplantation. I would be happy to take any question if anyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So it looks like we do have a question in the chat for Dr. Misra. How do you mitigate background seen in the C1Q assays?
Do you mitigate background seen in C1Q?
Would that be a question? Oh, go ahead.
So actually, we don't see a lot of background in C1Q assay. Basically, we heat treat the serum at 56 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, and then we test them. We sometimes see the IgM antibodies in addition to the IgG antibodies, but we interpret the data in conjunction with the IgG HLA antibody testing assay. And in IgG test assay, we use the Spherotech and EDTA combined serum treatment upfront before HLA antibody testing. And we have recently published a paper in the HLA journal I think in March 2023 that describes the protocol. And if anyone interested more about that, I would recommend reading that paper.
Great, thank you. There's a question that came in. Someone had asked, and I'll direct this to Stephanie Ritter, meeting manager, if a case study can be submitted to both the ASHI Educational Workshop and to the annual meeting.
So we definitely have the availability for case studies to be submitted for this workshop, where you would come to Denver and present your materials, and then you would also be included on the virtual workshop that's in July on the 21st and the 28th. For the annual meeting, we don't have case studies that we provide necessarily the same style that we do for the workshops. We do have abstract submission. However, that has closed as of May 1st. But if we do want to encourage you to submit again next year, it'll probably open again around April for people to be able to submit case studies and submit abstracts for the annual meeting, which takes place in October, next April 2024.
Thank you, Steph.
I think the question was like, if they can resubmit the same case study. And the answer is probably no, right? I mean, can they submit the case study for educational workshop and then repeat exactly the same one for ASHI? Oh, right.
That is a new one for me. I'm not sure if, I know it can't be a previously published work, and I think Kathy G can maybe clear that up for me. I'm not exactly sure, but
that's the part that I know for sure, is that it can't be a previously published work. But I'm not 100% sure about.
Does the ASHI, I mean, the AEW workshop abstract get presented? I mean, sorry, published anywhere?
Yes.
Yes?
I believe they get published in the quarterly.
Okay. Because if it is not in any other journal, like, our annual meeting, they are published in Human Immunology, so that's considered as publication. Then we cannot submit anywhere else. But this one, I'm not sure. I think it can probably send it to at least the annual meeting, probably. I don't know.
I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry I didn't have more explanation, but thank you, Siva, for jumping in, and thank you, Kathy G, for jumping in. Kathy, I have a question that came in that I think is for you. It says, my lab budget is small. Is there a difference of joining in person or with joining virtually?
Yeah, if you have a small budget, or the lab budget is small, there is a difference. We would suggest that maybe you share a room, maybe carpool with somebody. We do have a support letter on our meeting website for face-to-face meeting, and we do have a support letter for virtual. So if you're not able to join us in person, so our travel award for the virtual meeting is still open. There's a deadline of July 14th for that. And I can just show you, where that is on our website. You just go virtual, travel fund award, and then here's where you can submit the application. So there is a difference, at least, price points are different if you're joining in person versus virtually, but you can decide if you want to join the full workshop or single day. And I do want to point out that this will be available on demand. So a communication will go out 2 weeks after the virtual workshop takes place. And then you can watch the content and earn CEC until the end of 2023. But another question I did see come in the chat, if someone is not attending the AEW in person, can you submit a case study? So I'll toss that one to you, Steph.
Thank you. So we really are looking for people that are going to be in person in Denver to present their case study. And when you present in Denver, you'll be recorded. So that's how you'll be shown for the virtual workshop in July on the 21st and the 28th. I'm not sure if it would behoove you to submit a case study if you're not going to intend to attend in person, because we really want you there to present your findings to everyone that would be in attendance.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we're going to wrap up because we told you be 30 minutes and we're a minute or two over. But just want to thank you all, thank our following companies and organizations for their generous support of ASHI and its activities. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we hope this was helpful. We hope to see you at the face-to-face workshop at the end of June or online at the July workshop. And if you have any questions, there's an email. You can send us an email at meetings@ASHI at ashi-hla.org, and that's also in the chat. But yeah, thank you again.